Hello, beautiful faces. Happy Thursday. How's everybody doing? It's Tawana Carter here, and today I'm going to call this a public service announcement, right? I've got some Tibetan singing bowls in the background, and as you pop on, if you can hear my Tibetan singing bowls in the background, let me know. That is something that I picked up from the counseling side of the house, and tonight I'll be talking to you from the coaching side. I'm going to have on a coaching hat tonight. I'm going to have on my counselor's hat tonight as well. Hey, Letitia, Happy New Year. Okay, so I'm probably not. Hey, Jamie. So I see as you pop on, just drop a hashtag live there. And again, tonight it's just really I'm looking at it as a public service announcement, right? And for some people, I know that what happened yesterday, and the title of this is "It's Okay Not to Be Okay." And I know that from the stuff that happened yesterday, some people are triggered, right? Some of us are triggered. Hey, Sonia, thanks for popping in. As you pop in, just drop a hashtag live there, and let me know where you're popping on from, what city, state, or country. And so, for those of you who don't know me, I am Tawana Carter and I am a career transition coach. Some of you also know that I am also a licensed professional counselor, right? And so I never get into a debate, coach versus counselor, because I am actually both certified coach and I'm also a licensed counselor. But I've heard some comments over the past 24 hours after everything that went down at the Capitol here in the United States, and I'm about 15 miles from DC. I wasn't actually home yesterday. We were driving back, and after things started to go down, we actually ended up taking the long route. We went up through West Virginia and kind of dropped down so we wouldn't have to pass by DC. And I've just listened to people talk, and I've seen the comments and whatnot. And I know that a lot of you, some of you rather, may be triggered. So, what are you talking about, triggered? I know that some veterans are triggered, and you've heard some veterans say that I never expected to come home to the United States and have to see this. And also, we have to remember, everybody, all the beautiful faces out there. We have a lot of young people that have survived school shootings. And so being, even if some of those people were in the Capitol at the time, that's a trigger for some people for PTSD, right? And that's why I say it's right now, it's okay not to be okay, because there are some people out there that may not be okay. So if you know someone who's a veteran, or you know someone who survived a school shooting, or you know someone who is a domestic violence survivor, some of those people may not be okay right now. If you've never been in the position where you've been held against your will, or you've been caught where it's been in a life or death situation, you may not quite understand that, right? But for those of us who have, or we are helpers and we help people who survive those things, some of us may not be okay, and let's just face it, there are some of us who are not domestic violence survivors, or we're not veterans, or we're not school shooting survivors, and we're not okay after what we saw yesterday. Let's just put that out there. Some of us are just not okay. It is something we've seen on movies. We go and we look at it on the big screen. It's entertainment, but it's not real life. Yesterday, it became real life, and some of us are having problems, like wrapping our minds around what happened, right? And so if you can imagine, if you're just an everyday average person and you're having problems wrapping your mind around it, think about the people who have been held against their will. There are many people in domestic violence situations where they are held in the house, locked in a closet, and their life is threatened. And yesterday may have been a trigger. And again, I'll say it again, it's okay not to be okay right now. We're not going to pretend like everything is fine. If you're okay, it's okay. It's all about getting the help that you need. And so, for those of you that are catching this on StreamYard, you see that I have the National Suicide Hotline number. I think they're calling it the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number. It's all of those things. It is a free number if you're catching this from my page. I still have the number there. There is help. And that's what this this live is all about. It's just saying that if you're not okay, that's okay, but there are places that you can get help. And tonight I am also coming to you live from my Facebook page for JBC Counseling and Consulting, because again, I am also a licensed therapist. So if you're not okay tonight, it's okay. It's what we saw yesterday. We're only used to, most of us are only used to seeing that at the movies. Some of us out there, we've lived through this, we've survived this. Whether you are, you're from another country where your family had to escape and come to the United States because you were trying to get away from things like that, or again, whether you're a school survivor, school shooting survivor. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of kids out there that they're young adults now. You got to understand Columbine. Those students are middle aged now, and so there may be some people who may have been triggered by again what happened yesterday at our U.S. Capitol. And I just want to come on and say, if that is you, help is available. You don't have to go through this alone. I've popped up that National Suicide Hotline number. It's a 1-800 number for those of you in the States. I'm not sure for those of you overseas. I would imagine that if you're Puerto Rico, which is a part of the United States, it should work. In some of our territories, it should, and I'll check that out to be sure. But you can call that number, and what happens when you call that number, they'll put you in contact with services or help that's near you. So if you call from California, it's going to ask you where you are, and it'll get you help in California. And if you're in Alabama, Connecticut, wherever you are, if you call that National Suicide Hotline number, they will get you help where you are. Right now, some of you, you may not be feeling depressed and feel like you want to commit suicide, but you may be anxious, right? And some of the symptoms that you will see or you may be experiencing, if you can't sleep, if you feel like you can't eat, some of you may have headaches all of a sudden that you can't get rid of. You're nervous. Every sharp sound, heavy sound, or loud sound has you jumping and jittery, and you're kind of nervous. Those are some of the symptoms of the fact that what happened yesterday. You just been triggered by it. Hey, Sarah, how are you? Hey, Dolores, thanks for hopping on. We're talking about tonight that it's okay not to be okay after yesterday, what happened at the Capitol. For many of us, some of us, we are triggered because we've had some PTSD before, right? For some veterans, they are triggered, and you've heard some of the congressmen say, I'm a veteran. I never thought to see this here. I've seen this in a war zone. I didn't expect to see it here. And ladies and gentlemen, a lot of those congressmen, congresswomen, staffers, people that were in the Capitol, they may have PTSD, and they'll probably end up getting help as well. It is okay to ask for help. It is okay to get help. And again, that's the reason why I'm here today saying, if you need the help, it is okay to get it. You don't have to go, well, I got to suck this up and be strong. Do what's best for you and get the help that you need. Again, if you're feeling like maybe depressed, maybe this, because some of you may have felt like, I thought I was over this. I thought I had gotten beyond this, and now you're not. The National Suicide Hotline number is there. As well, if you're working at this time, you can, of course, get help through your benefits. And some of you may have EAP services, employee assistance program, and that's free. So I always try to tell you, if you're working, check with your HR. If you have EAP, you don't have to pay for that because your employer has already paid for it. And depending on your company, you may get 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 sessions. Military One Source, you may be able to get up to 12 sessions depending on what is going on, but it is free for you. There's not a cost for you. And so if you're not okay after yesterday, that is fine. Understand that help is available. Help is definitely available, right? And so whether you are a domestic violence survivor or school shooting survivor, a workplace shooting, and it may not even have been a shooting. It could have just been something happened where this has been a trigger for you, and you're not yourself. You just don't feel quite like everything is right. There is help available. Now, understand that A lot of you are out of jobs right now. You're like, what am I supposed to do? Well, again, the 1-800 suicide lifeline number, that is free. I would also say that if you're just not feeling yourself, and if you live near a university that has a counseling program, especially the larger universities, like I'm from Alabama, so I happen to know my university, University of Alabama in Birmingham, we have a counseling because we have a counseling center because we train counselors. This is where I got my counseling degree from. Some universities have low cost or no cost counseling available through those programs. So I'm not sure what's going on with COVID-19, if everybody went virtual or whatnot, but check those kinds of sources. And some therapists do sliding scale where it's based on what you make, and that's the cost. They'll charge you for the services based on that. And so there are some, there's some help there for some of you who have been like domestic violence survivors. Depending on your state, you may have some services through certain agencies at no cost to you, right? If you, like, again, yesterday is just a trigger for some people. You thought you were okay, you thought you were beyond it. You're like, I finally got past this. And then yesterday, you're like, holy crap, what is this? I'm feeling sick again. I'm feeling nauseous again. I can't sleep. Some of you may not have been able to sleep, or you just kind of cat now because your nerves are, as I say, your nerves are all janky, right? It's okay. It happens to the best of us, right? But you can seek help. Now, again, like I said before, I am a certified coach, as well as certified health coach, as well as a licensed professional counselor, right? And so I treat people as a counselor. I treat people for anxiety, PTSD, depression, all of that. And I'm also a coach who coaches people who have anxiety. So whichever route you choose what works best for you. So you're not, because I'm a coach and a counselor, you're not going to hear me say, don't go to coaches because, or you shouldn't go to a counselor because. I don't badger either one. I don't bash either one, because I am both, right? And I will say that there are some great PTSD coaches out there. And while they may not have a license, some do, some don't. Some of them are PTSD coaches because they've gone through some type of trauma and they lived it and they've been able to get better, and they're able to coach you through that. I know I have a friend, Kimberly Williams, who's a PTSD coach. So you can get a PTSD coach because some people may not be at the level where they feel they want a counselor or a psychologist, or to see a psychiatrist. If you are not sure, you can start with your primary care doctor. Start there and let him or her know what's going on, that you were fine, but you got triggered and you're not feeling right. And then they'll let you know whether they recommend you see a coach or they recommend you see a therapist. Either way you go, get help and don't feel like you're in this by yourself, because you're not. There are a lot of people that were triggered by what happened yesterday. And what I mean by trigger is once you've gone through a trauma, sometimes what you hear can be a trigger, and it's like you're reliving your trauma all over again. Sometimes smells will do it for you, right? Sometimes just the smell. Hey, Natalie, thanks for popping in. Sometimes for some people, it's a smell. It is smell that triggers. I mean, think about it like this. For many of us, when it comes to Christmas and we smell certain smells, it kind of helps us to flash back to when we were Christmas as a kid or growing up. And those are typically, for most people, they're good times. For some people, they are not. But for some people, it's a trigger. And some people, is what you see that is a trigger. And so the things that happened yesterday for some people were a trigger. I know veterans are triggered because they thought they were safe in the United States and they were not in a war zone anymore. They didn't have to see those kinds of things, right? I know that for me, when I hear certain sounds, the first thing I want to do is I want a flak vest, I want a helmet, and I want my weapon, because that's training. I was in the Army as well, so I'm a veteran as well. Training says when you see certain things, you hear certain things, you gird up, you get your stuff, and you're ready to protect yourself. That's just something that happens with me. It happens naturally. When I got out of the military and I had some PTSD, which I didn't get treated right off. But I remember I was teaching school in Florida, and that in Florida you have the Space Center. It's like in Florida, And so I did not realize that the space shuttle was taking off and the sonic boom hit. I was not expecting that. And I flashed back to being in the war again. And I dropped on the ground and I was outside of I was in a portable, I was walking to my portable. And when the sonic boom hit, I literally flashed back to the war. And when I came to myself, I was on the ground, low crawling, trying to get to my building and get to safety. So when I say trigger, that's what I mean by trigger. You hear something or you smell something or you see something, and it can kind of flash you back to the moment that you first got that trauma and you are going through the motions, you're doing things before you actually come to yourself. Because I had low crawl for a minute, for a while, before I realized where I came to myself, where I was. And I'll be honest with you, I had on skirt and blouse and everything, and I dropped down and I started low crawling because that's what I'm used to. That was it was just training in because I thought I was under attack. It just happens. And so again, it is okay not to be okay right now. It's okay not to be okay today, but it's also okay to ask for help if you need it. That's what this live is all about. Just ask for help if you need it. I've got some numbers for you there. We talked about some of you, those of you who are working, you may have an EAP, talk to your HR. If you have EAP services, you can get, some short-term counseling therapy for just a few sessions, but it's free. So you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to pay for it. You can also use your insurance. If you already have a therapist, see a therapist. If not, call a therapist. If you're not quite sure, you can contact your doctor. Just get help. And for those of you out there who know you have friends who are domestic violence survivors or, veterans and, some policemen, some firemen, there are a lot of people that could have been triggered by what happened yesterday. Get help, check on them, call them up, let them know you're there. Sometimes you just need to talk to people to talk it out. Other times you need a bit more help. You may need a therapist or you may need a coach, depending on where you are, right? And so I just want to check real quick here because I've done a bit of talking. I see a comment out there. So someone said hashtag live. Thank you much again. And I've got two screens, so I'm going to look over here and be sure I'm not missing comments. And I'll put it over here so I don't have to look away. But definitely, what are your thoughts out there? Hopefully you guys can see the 1-800 number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. I know hey, Joshua, Natalie is well versed in this. I worked for the VA for about 9.5 years, and boy, that number just pops off. I remember it like clockwork because you do hear it a lot, but it is there and it can offer help to you in the United States for sure, right? You dial that number up and you'll get help wherever you are. They'll put you in contact with someone where you are so you don't have to go through this alone. Again, I'll say it again. It's okay not to be okay right now. After what happened at the Capitol, a lot of people have been triggered because of past trauma events that they lived through. That's okay. Just make sure that you get help, right? So Letitia says, hey, I'm going to pop over to my group as well and to see if I have any comments there. I've got so many screens open. So just kind of bear with me. And those of you that hop on live, so Joshua says, hey, love, thanks for this great info. I'll be sharing this with my friends. Yes, absolutely, Joshua. It's just, I know people are triggered. It was my sister and I rode in the car. We were on the way back, and I live not too far from DC. And again, when you're a veteran, you've been trained, your mindset is a certain thing, you're strategic. Why is it this? Why did that? Da, 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 da. And then there's a part of our minds that didn't even want to accept, even though we saw it playing out because we were live, we were watching the live stream in the car on a smartphone. And it was like we didn't even want to compute what was going on. And that is what happened. So a lot of people, it may not have hit you yesterday. It may or may not even hit you today, but a couple of days, again, look at those signs and symptoms. If you cannot eat, if you startle easily, if you're having to look over your shoulder or recheck things over and over, check your doors, a lot of people are triggered because of their past events with trauma. But that's okay. It is natural. It happens. It happens to It can happen to anybody who has trauma. And for, the people in that area, for some people, there was trauma because that a lot of people didn't expect that to happen. But it's okay not to be okay. We're not going to sugarcoat anything and say, you need to man up or woman up and be strong. No, get help if you need the help. Bottom line, get the help if you need the help. That's what it's about. And those of you who have friends, they're veterans, or you have friends and they're survivors of school shootings, and not even shootings. If you were beaten up, that's a trauma. And for some people, it's domestic violence. Some people, if they were beaten up by a gang, or if they were beat up or in the workplace or something like that, anything that has happened to you, yes, what happened yesterday at the Capitol can be a trigger, right? And so I just want people to understand that you're not alone and that you can get help, and it's okay to be triggered. It is actually okay. Kara says, thank you for sharing this and making it be okay. Absolutely, Kara. Absolutely. Because what happens is, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't see PTSD when I got back from Desert Storm. My dad agitated me. I was so upset with him. I'll be honest with you. I just wanted to close in and close off and just close out everything. And my dad saw it. I never saw it. And I wasn't a counselor at the time, right? But he agitated. He made me get out of the house. He made me go to the park. He would just say, come, you're coming. Let's go. Let's go. Sometimes you got to do that to your friends, right? You just go in, sit with them. And if they need to talk, just talk. If you need to just sit and say, hey, I'm just here, not going anywhere, I'll just sit here with you. Because some people are embarrassed. We see it as a weakness. If we this happened to me years ago. Why should I be experiencing symptoms now? Because the brain is just a funny thing. The memories are there. They're just like stored somewhere. And what happened yesterday for a lot of people, it opened up those doors. Hey, Judy, thanks for joining. For a lot of people, what happened yesterday at the Capitol, it triggered and it went through the mind and it opened those doors, and they were flooded with trauma memories from the trauma they went to. That's what we mean by trigger. It's not their fault. It just happens. But we're social isolating, right? And we got a lot of people at home by themselves. So, check on your friends, right? Check on your friends, check on people. If they've went through something, call them up. How you doing? Just checking in on you. Seeing if you're okay. I know Natalie texted me yesterday. Hey, I'm checking on you. Are you okay? That's all it takes. It could be a Facebook message. It could be a text message, an email, or a phone call. Just check on them to be okay, and make it okay for them not to be okay. It may be a few days or a few weeks or a few months, depending on who you are. Because I can guarantee you 100%, there are some people that were in lockdown yesterday that are going to end up seeking therapy because it's traumatic. What happened yesterday was traumatic, unexpected, and we're human beings. It takes a while for our brain to process, and it just is what it is. But it's okay not to be okay, and it's also okay to get help. It is okay to accept the help. It is okay for you to call a friend just to check on them and be sure they're okay. Because again, with social distancing, this is just worse. It's just worse, right? And so check on your friends, and like I said, whether they need to talk, whether they need to sit with you and be quiet, or sit with you on the phone because you're social distancing, just call them up and let them know it's okay, right? And so again, I have a couple screens open, so let me go through my screens and be sure I haven't missed any comments. Okay, I see there. But if you guys have any comments, and I know Natalie is a licensed therapist as well. She's a licensed social worker. So again, this is, many of you out there may work in this field. I know that some of you are coaches. I know that one of the things that I coach people on is anxiety. So a lot of you are having anxiety. Some people it's depression, some people it's anxiety, and some of you it's both. And that's why I want to make it okay for you to get help. If you need it, it's okay to talk. Whatever you feel it. right? There's no right or wrong feeling. And I just want you to understand that if you're there, and you may not be there today, but 3 days later, you might be there. Again, it's okay to not be okay. And I have the help there, the numbers, the National Suicide Hotline number, as well as you can seek therapy through your EAP at no cost to you. Just reach out and get help, talk to your friends and whatnot, right? So I'm not seeing any more comments. So let me check. I have a couple of screens open so I can kind of catch everything. And so absolutely. And for those of you who catch this on the replay, as always, 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 thank you, thank you, thank you for doing that. And if you would, once you pop on, drop in hashtag replay and also let me know what city, country, or state you're calling from, right? And let me know you're there. Do use the numbers that are there. There's always someone there at the National Suicide Hotline number. And I will also, because I know some of you are triggered because you have domestic violence. After this, I'll look up that number as well. If you go to my website, jbccounselingandconsulting.com, I do have the domestic violence hotline number that is there. There are a number of places that you can get help because, again, trauma, people have different traumas. For people, for some it's car wrecks, for some it's school shootings, for some it's domestic violence, for some of our veterans it's just a flashback, taking them back to a place where they were not as safe before. Hey Sherry, happy New Year. It's good to see you, or at least see your name there. And so today I was talking about it's okay not to be okay. I know that some people are triggered by what happened at the Capitol yesterday because of past trauma, or even, yesterday was traumatic for them. And I just wanted to pass along some information. There's a National Suicide Hotline number, and that's a 1-800-273-8255. If you call that number anywhere in the United States, and I believe it's territories too, I'll have to check that out, but they will put you in contact with someone local for you. As well, for those of you who are working, you can get, some therapy sessions, no charge to you, through your EAP, which is your Employee Assistance Program. Contact your HR, and they should be able to get you in contact with, with number to call. I know I'm one of the therapists for Aspire, and I know that's all online. You go online, tell them what you need, and they'll get you a therapist. That's one way to go. You can, if you have insurance, you can also, of course, get therapy through using your insurance. And for those of you who are not working, some therapists do a sliding fee scale where they charge you based on your income, right? Also, like if you're in around Birmingham, in that area, some large colleges have counseling programs, and you can be treated by a counselor in training. That's what I was. In addition to being a coach, I'm a licensed therapist as well. And so that is what I did. I was a counselor in training, and that's, typically low cost or no cost, depending on where you are. It depends on the university. And so if you are near a university, a large university, call them up and ask them if they have a counseling program and if they're doing counseling. Because I know at one point, some of them were like $5 a session, and you are getting really great training. There are licensed therapists there, and they are supervising the counselors in training. So you're really getting good training. I did it. I'm sure Nally did it as a social worker. We all do it. So it's a good resource if you're not working, you don't have insurance, to see a therapist right now. And there are many places out there, if you call them up and tell them what you're going through, especially if you're a domestic violence survivor or a school shooting survivor, there are resources out there for you. So that's what I have for you, ladies and gentlemen. I do appreciate you for popping in today just to get some information, get it out there. And again, pass the information along, like Joshua said. Hey, Chris. Hey, classmate. How are you? Definitely, if you're not triggered by this, but you know someone else who is triggered by what happened at the Capitol yesterday, and they're having some problems with anxiety, depression, and PTSD, give them this information and let them know there's help, and that it's okay not to be okay right now. That is absolutely fine. But it is also okay to get help so that you eventually get back to being okay again, right? And so I thank you all for popping in tonight, and take care, everybody, and have a great evening.